This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Howler Holders, Jeff Cutter and welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe Birthday Boy. Our birthday boy for today, November the 2nd, is a very underrated player in a lot of people's minds. Especially with the fact that, if you read about his stuff in the 1980s, he was very much a great player in the 80s, but he was put behind players like George Brett, Reggie Jackson, Doug Gooden, Darryl Strawberry, those guys. But anyway, he's 64 years old today. He played in the majors for 4 teams in 18 seasons, winning 2 batting titles and an MVP in the year of my birth, 1985. He was a good Gold Gloves caliber defensive player, and he was known for his prowess with the St. Louis Cardinals. He is Willie McGee. Willie McGee grew up in a devoutly religious household. His father was a deacon in the Pentecostal church. McGee would sneak out of the house to participate in sports on Sunday afternoons when he wasn't really supposed to. As is, he did graduate from high school in Richmond, California, but was selected in the 7th round of the draft by the White Sox. McGee actually wanted to go to community college, so he declined the White Sox offer. And then a few months later, he was signed in the January 77 draft by the Yankees, first round, 15th overall. Patience paid off. He was in the Yankees farm system and went to Double-A. However, the Yankees traded McGee's rights to the Cardinals for Bob Sykes. So that didn't work out well. The Yankees were known for making botching trades in the 80s. They traded a young Jay Buhner to Seattle for Ken Phelps. And they traded Fred McGriff to the Blue Jays for the one of Mike Morgan. Anyhow, he was called up to St. Louis for a brief time in the 1982 season. Batting .296 with 4 home runs, 56 RBIs. But it was the playoffs where he sparkled. St. Louis was on a run to win the World Series. In Game 3 of the 82 World Series, it was one of the best performances in history. Willie McGee was not really known for hitting home runs, but he knocked 2 home runs at Milwaukee County Stadium and made a couple of great defensive plays, including snaring a Gorman Thomas home run in the 9th as the Cardinals won 6-2. McGee was the 3rd rookie to hit 2 home runs in a World Series game, but the first to not be a Yankee, as Charlie Keller and Tony Kubek both did it, but both were Yankees at the time. Although Andruw Jones in 96 and Michael Conforto in 2015 would join that group. McGee was huge for the Cardinals as they won in Game 7 against Milwaukee. Anyway, McGee would exemplify Whitey ball, a style of baseball named after Whitey Herzog, taking advantage of the spacious Busch Stadium, not the current one St. Louis plays it, and put emphasis on fundamentals, pitching, defense, base running, and situational play. Willie McGee actually participated in one of the most famous NBC games of all time. In 1984, Cubs and Cardinals were playing at Wrigley Field. It wasn't the main national game, as Vin Scully and Joe Garagiola were doing another game. It was Bob Costas and Tony Kubek doing the game, and McGee would end up hitting for the cycle. McGee was actually named NBC's Player of the Game. The only problem was the Cubs didn't give up, and Sandberg hit 2 key home runs off Bruce Sutter, and the Cubs eventually won 12-11. McGee did hit for the cycle, single, double, triple, and home run. But McGee and Sandberg would share the honor. I mean, is it really worth it? Anyway, in the year of my birth, 1985, McGee won the National League batting crown at .353, which is actually the 2nd highest batting average by a switch hitter in NL history. I would say Hornsby, but I don't remember. They're not telling me who it was. But as is, he did pretty good. He actually led the NL in hits and triples. He was known as a speedster, triples were hard to come by. He was actually third in stolen bases with 56. Well, he would have. Well, one of the two guys ahead of him was his teammate Vince Coleman, who came up from the minors. So anyway, he got to the NL All-Star team. It helped St. Louis get to the World Series. The only problem is the Cardinals lost the World Series. It wasn't their fault. It was basically, well, it's not their fault because of Dan Kucher's blown call in Game 6. But it is their fault, kind of, because their batting average of just under 200 was pitiful. The Cardinals, it would have been funny to see them bat under 200 in the World Series, still a win. Anyway, between 1975 and 1993, McGee's 354 average was actually second behind Tony Gwynn. So yeah, McGee did it right. Then he was moved to fifth in the batting order, and it worked. McGee had 105 RBIs and helped the Cardinals get to the World Series. Unfortunately, they fell again in Game 7 to the Twinkies, as it was just not good. McGee was the victim of the last out for the Twins. McGee would play in St. Louis, but in 1990, Whitey Ball was done. Whitey Herzog retired, and then in August, when you could trade players, still, McGee was traded to Oakland for Felix Jose and a pair of minor league players. So basically, they were rebuilding. McGee played for the A's and got to the 1990 World Series, but again, McGee lost the World Series as they got swept by the Reds. But the funny thing is, McGee actually had 542 plate appearances in the National League. Why is that important? Because the rule of thumb is to qualify for a batting title, you have to be in 3.1 at-bats per game played, I think, or something like that. Because he got enough plate appearances, he was still eligible for the NL batting crown. But McGee did it. McGee batted .335, and that still led the National League in batting, even though he was over in the American League for a month. It was odd and all that. George Brett was the American League batting champion. But anyway, it was funny. McGee actually winning the NL batting title while playing for Oakland. But anyway, in December '90, he signed a multi-year deal with San Francisco. He was close to his family now. He was consistent. He was decent, but injuries would start to catch up to him. He actually signed as a free agent with Boston for the '95 season and played for the Red Sox when they got to the playoffs against Cleveland, but they got swept. McGee actually went back to St. Louis in '96. So anyway, McGee's role was limited. Well, he was an age veteran and didn't really bat a lot, but he did okay. He actually hit a pinch hit home run in '97 in the Cardinals home opener. And McGee made a shoestring catch on a ball by Tony Gwynn, August 5th, 1999. Why is that important? Because that would have been hit number 3,000 for Gwynn in St. Louis. A couple of days later, he would do that in Montreal. Anyway, McGee would play his final game in 1999 at the age of 40. Amazing. So his career stats over 2,200 games in the majors. He didn't hit a lot of home runs. He only hit 79 of them by 856 RBIs and a 295 average. It was pretty good. There's been some support that McGee was going to have his number 51 retired by the Cardinals, but not yet. McGee is listed on the Cardinals roster as an assistant coach. So yeah, Willie McGee was really underrated. I mean, after all, his heroics was why the Cardinals won the 1982 World Series as a rookie. But poor guy, he went to 3 World Series after that and didn't win. But hey, he's got a title. That's something, isn't it? Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.